Hi, today we are going to chat about deciding what to build for our new application that we are going to utilize AI to build for us in 30 days. So let's get started. And before I jump right in, I want to let you know that I am here to encourage you to make fast decisions, but as educated of decisions as possible. You always can reserve the right to change your mind and to change your product whenever the business need or other need arises. So if you feel like you are agonizing over this part, take some of what I say to heart. And then also just think of ideas that help you to dive in and to learn new technologies in this first iteration. How do you decide exactly what you want to build for an application? There are many expert opinions on how to make these decisions, but we're going to go over three general topics that I really believe in today. We're going to talk first about the domain that you work in and your customer empathy level. Then we're going to talk about what is your product instinct and the clarity that this product is actually going to be a viable product. And then what are the actual paths to adding value for the customer? If these sound like very abstract groupings, don't worry, we're going to go right in and clarify them now. And I encourage you to use AI tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, etc., to chat, to bounce ideas off of, to ask them what gaps you're missing in what you are researching as you decide what to build. This activity could take you hours, it could take you days or weeks to get through, but let me just give you a few highlights that can get you started. Let's start with domain. One thing I have noticed throughout my career is that there tends to be a mindset bias the more experienced you get in a domain. Now, if you're questioning what is a domain is the business area that you work in. I work in agricultural, commodities, technology. You might work in healthcare technology. You might work in fintech. Maybe you work in IoT. Maybe you work in devices. Maybe you work in cloud. All of these things are domains. So they're the business area that you work in. So if you can see by this chart, which is an empirical chart, so it is not exact, but the lower the experience level in said domain, the more willing you are to try or to suggest a new idea. As you grow in your experience level, you tend to become more resistant to new ideas, and you will say, I've already seen this before. I have pattern recognition. This cannot be done. Now, of course, this isn't true always, but generally speaking, the more experience you have in a domain, the less likely you are to try and suggest something new. So for the purposes of coming up with a net new product, my recommendation is always to start somewhere where you have a medium experience level. If we look right here all the way, I don't have my pointer today, I apologize, guys. If we look out right here to the left where we have a low experience person, these folks are willing to try and suggest new things. They're not resistant to trying to develop new products at all. However, they may not have the knowledge to actually get the product out the door. Whereas if you have a medium experienced person, you're still in that mode of trying new, you want to try to develop new products, you want to solve problems in new ways. You're not really resistant to knowing too much about the area to where you would say, I have pattern recognition, it can't be done. Once you're an expert in a certain domain, you often will say, hey, I know these customers so well that I just don't believe they're going to use this. And I'm going to use my own example. So I have put in here kind of the example of the farmer. The farmer is going to be one of my customers for my application. So when I have low experience, I don't have a lot of empathy for what the farmer is doing. What he or she is doing is kind of fuzzy to me. It's black and white. I don't really have a lot of clarity around everything. I might be very open-minded, but I do not have clarity around their business process. As I become more experienced, I have a lot more clarity. Maybe everything's not crystal clear, but this is really the sweet spot in this medium experience level where I can start to see and know what the processes are and I can improve upon them. When I am a highly experienced domain expert, I have a ton of clarity on the customers, but unfortunately, that can sometimes blindside me to new product development. So my recommendation is to start somewhere where you have a medium experience level and you can see those pain points drawn out where you actually want to create a new environment, a new process for them to work in. If you all are familiar with Marty Kagan, he has published a series of books, and you will know that he has some pillars for determining whether or not a product can make it in the market. So essentially product market fit. And there are actually 4 pillars in his book, but I'm only going to talk about 3 today. If you want to know more about product leadership, I have the book right here. This is Inspired. He has 2 other books, Empowered and Transformed, that you can read and you can take all of his lessons to heart. But there are essentially 4 pillars, which we're going to talk about the 4th one in a second here. But you want to make sure that your new product is valuable to the customer. Do they get their business process solved by using it? And hopefully, will they pay for it? Or will someone pay for it in the future? Is the product usable? So when you develop with AI, you need to make sure it's not a Frankenstein product and that it's actually intuitive and it's actually able to use. And is it viable? So is it going to long-term actually have users, or is it like a one and done throwaway? Is it viable for your business to use long-term? The last pillar that you don't see up here is feasibility. Now, I'm leaving feasibility off of this one because we are utilizing AI today, and almost everything we try in our, smallest product iteration is going to be feasibly able to be built, which is the great aspect of all of these new AI tools, is most of these items are able to be built. Now, of course, you have the issue of, do you have the data? Do you have a lot of other supporting things? But can you write the code? Yes. For these small startup products, you can build them. So you want to make sure that your instincts around whether or not this is valuable, usable, viable, that should all come together so that you can tell, or at least you could do a first pass of whether or not this is going to be usable, valuable, and viable in the market. So the last item I'm going to talk about today is what is the path to value? So we talk about first the customer need. What is the problem? And you should be talking about the problem in your executive summary in your PRD. You should have the customer need well articulated as to why someone would need this product. But then you need to talk about what is that journey to them actually getting the value. The customer journey this is where it could be a lengthy journey. It could be a short journey. All of this is determined by you and your domain. But we want to know how we can get the customer from their problem to the value. And then the ultimate big rock here is what is the value? And I could go into more detail, and I may in another session, but there are 4 main benefits that bring customer value. So number 1 is making money for the business or for the customer. Number 2 is saving money. Number 3 is regulatory compliance, which is something that is very important, but may, elicit less users. And number 4 is process improvement. You're just essentially making their lives easier. So think about all of those benefits as you're choosing your product to build. This has been fun. I cannot wait to talk to you tomorrow about the specific business case on yield cover. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we will continue the discussion tomorrow, starting to build our application in the next few days. Thank you.